when Elon Musk walked into the biggest fashion party in the world on May 7, 2018, he had a joke ready. A weird joke about computers in the future that almost nobody would understand. He felt alone in a room full of thousands of people. But then, a woman with pink hair walked up to him and said the exact joke he was thinking. At that moment, two of the loneliest people on Earth found each other. This is the true story of Elon Musk and Claire Boucher, the musician known as Grimes. It's a love story that gave the world a baby with the strangest name you've ever heard. A love story that survived company crashes, public attacks, and a global pandemic. But it's also a story about a secret fear that Claire carried from the very first day, a fear so powerful that it would eventually tear them apart, even though they still loved each other. Most love stories end with happily ever after. This one ends with something much more real, much more painful, and somehow much more beautiful. But here's what makes this story different from any celebrity romance you've heard before. Claire was terrified of something from the moment she found out she was pregnant. Something she couldn't tell Elon. Something that would threaten everything they built together. And that secret fear, it's something millions of women face but nobody talks about. What was Claire so afraid of? Why did two people who understood each other perfectly have to live in separate houses? And what happened in 2024 that changed everything again? Stay with me through this whole story because the ending will surprise you. This isn't about a breakup. It's about something much deeper, something that will make you think differently about what love really means. Let me tell you about the night two lonely people found each other in a room full of thousands. It was May 7, 2018. The Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City glowed with lights and camera flashes. The Met Gala, the biggest fashion event in the world, was happening. Movie stars walked up the red carpet in million-dollar dresses. Musicians posed for photographers. Everyone looked perfect. Everyone smiled their brightest smiles. But inside, one man stood alone. Elon Musk was 46 years old. He ran two companies that were trying to change the world. SpaceX was building rockets to Mars. Tesla was making electric cars that everyone said were impossible. The newspapers called him a genius. Also called him crazy. Some days he wasn't sure which one was true. That night, Elon had come to the Met Gala with a plan. He wanted to make a joke. It was a weird joke about something called Roko's basilisk, an idea about artificial intelligence from the internet that almost nobody knew about. Elon thought it was funny. He knew most people wouldn't get it. He stood near a painting, looking at his phone, feeling out of place. Even though he was famous, even though he had money, he often felt alone. The people around him didn't understand why he worked so hard. They didn't understand his dreams about Mars and electric cars and saving humanity. He felt like an alien at his own planet's party. Then he saw her. Claire Boucher walked through the crowd like she was floating. Her hair was pink and wild. Her dress looked like something from the future. She was 30 years old and went by the stage name Grimes. She made music that sounded like computers dreaming. Most people didn't understand her music either. Elon watched her move through the room. Something told him to talk to her, but before he could, Claire walked right up to him. "I know what you were going to joke about," she said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Elon blinked. "What?" "Roko's basilisk," Claire said, grinning. "You were going to make a joke about it tonight, weren't you?" Elon's mouth fell open. How did she know he hadn't told anyone? How did you? "I already made that joke," Claire interrupted. "In one of my music videos 3 years ago." She laughed, a sound like bells ringing. "I guess we think the same weird thoughts." For the first time in months, Elon smiled a real smile. Not a smile for cameras. A real one. They started talking. The party continued around them, but they didn't notice. They talked about artificial intelligence and whether computers could think. They talked about Mars and why humans needed to live on other planets. They talked about anime and art and music and rockets. Hours passed like minutes. "Everyone thinks I'm strange," Claire said quietly, looking down at her hands. "They don't understand why I care so much about my art. Why I work 18 hours a day in my tiny apartment making sounds on my computer." "I understand," Elon said, and he did. He worked even longer hours. He slept at his factories. His friends had stopped calling because he never had time. "Everyone thinks I'm strange too." Their eyes met. In that moment, something clicked into place, like two puzzle pieces that had been searching for each other their whole lives. Claire had grown up in Canada feeling like she didn't fit anywhere. She was too weird for normal kids, too artistic for the business world, too obsessed with the future for people who lived in the present. Elon had grown up in South Africa getting bullied for being different. He was too smart, too awkward, too focused on his dreams. He had moved to America to build impossible things, and everyone kept telling him he would fail. But now, standing together in this crowded room, neither of them felt alone. "Do you want to get out of here?" Elon asked. Claire smiled. "I thought you'd never ask." They left the Met Gala together, stepping into the warm May night. Cameras flashed as they walked to Elon's car. By morning, their photo would be everywhere. People would ask questions. Who was this pink-haired musician? Why was she with Elon Musk? But that night, none of that mattered. Two people who had spent their whole lives feeling misunderstood had finally found someone who spoke their language. Someone who dreamed the same impossible dreams. Someone who wasn't afraid of being weird. It felt like magic. It felt like coming home. But Claire carried a secret fear in her heart, something she couldn't tell Elon yet. Something that would one day threaten everything they were about to build together. A fear that every moment of happiness only made stronger. She pushed the thought away and took Elon's hand. For now, this was enough. For now, they had found each other. And sometimes, that's how the most beautiful love stories begin, with two lost souls finally finding their way home. Understand how special their connection was. You need to know where they each came from. Because Elon and Claire weren't just two random people who met at a party. They were two people who had walked very similar lonely roads to get there. Let's start with Claire. Claire Elise Boucher was born on March 17, 1988 in Vancouver, Canada. From the moment she could talk, she was different. While other kids played normal games, Claire sat in corners drawing strange creatures. She made up songs about robots and stars. Her mind moved too fast for her mouth to keep up. School was hard. The teachers said she couldn't focus. She would start one project and then jump to another. Her desk was always messy. Her homework was always late. They tested her and found out she had ADHD. Her brain was wired differently than other kids' brains. "Why can't you just be normal?" other children would ask her. Claire didn't have a good answer. She didn't know how to be normal. She only knew how to be herself. As she got older, things got harder, not easier. She didn't fit in with the popular kids. She didn't fit in with the smart kids. She didn't even fit in with the weird kids. She was too weird even for them, but Claire had music. She would lock herself in her bedroom and create sounds on her computer. Strange, beautiful sounds that nobody had heard before. Music that sounded like the future. Music that made people feel things they didn't have words for. When she was 19, she went to college to study philosophy and music. But college felt wrong too. Too structured, too boring, too slow. Her mind wanted to create, not sit in classrooms, so she dropped out. She moved into a tiny, cold apartment. She had almost no money. Some nights she was so poor she could barely afford food. But she had her computer and her microphone and her dreams. She worked 18 hours a day, every day. She would record music until her voice was raw. She would edit sounds until the sun came up. She taught herself everything: how to produce, how to mix, how to make the sounds in her head become real. In 2010, she needed a name for her music project. She was on MySpace, an old website where musicians shared their work, and saw the music genre called grime. She thought it sounded cool. She created the name Grimes. Slowly, people started listening. Her music was weird, but it was also brilliant. It was like nothing anyone had ever heard before. Some people loved it, some people hated it, but nobody could ignore it. By 2018, Grimes had released 4 albums. She had fans all over the world. She had won awards, but she still felt misunderstood. People still called her weird. They still didn't understand why she worked so hard on music that didn't sound like anything on the radio. She felt alone in rooms full of people who claimed to love her art, until she met Elon. Now let's talk about Elon's journey. Elon Reeve Musk was born on June 28, 1971 in Pretoria, South Africa. Like Claire, he was different from the start. While other kids played outside, Elon sat inside reading books. Big, thick books about science and space and how things worked. He read 10 hours a day. He read so much that his parents thought something was wrong with his hearing. They took him to doctors, but his hearing was fine. He just didn't want to listen to the world around him. He wanted to live in the worlds inside his books. School was terrible for Elon. The other boys bullied him badly. They pushed him downstairs. They hit him. Once they beat him so hard that he had to go to the hospital. His nose was broken and never healed right. "Why are you so weird?" they would shout while they hurt him. Elon learned to hide his feelings. He learned to keep his big ideas to himself. But inside, his mind was always dreaming of the future, of rockets and electric cars and humans living on other planets. When he was 17, Elon left South Africa. He moved to Canada, then to America. He wanted to build the things he dreamed about. He wanted to change the world. He started a company called Zip2, then another called PayPal. He made millions of dollars. People said he should retire and enjoy his money. But Elon didn't want to enjoy his money. He wanted to save the world. In 2002, he started SpaceX. Everyone said it was stupid. Rockets were too expensive, too dangerous, too impossible. His own heroes, famous engineers he looked up to, told him he would fail. "You're going to lose all your money," they warned. Elon didn't listen. He spent almost everything he had building rockets. The first rocket exploded. The second rocket exploded. The third rocket exploded. He was almost out of money. SpaceX was about to die. Then in 2008, the fourth rocket worked. It flew into space perfectly. NASA gave SpaceX a huge contract. The company was saved. But that same year, Tesla almost died too. The economy crashed. Nobody wanted to buy expensive electric cars. Elon was working 120 hours a week, sleeping at the factory, trying to keep both companies alive. His first marriage fell apart. He barely saw his 5 sons. He was exhausted and heartbroken, but he didn't give up. He kept working, he kept building, he kept dreaming. By 2018, SpaceX was launching rockets regularly. Tesla was making beautiful electric cars that everyone wanted. Elon had become one of the most famous entrepreneurs in the world, but he was still lonely. He worked all the time. He had almost no friends. People either wanted his money or wanted to criticize him. Nobody understood why he pushed himself so hard. Nobody understood that he wasn't building rockets and cars for fun. He was doing it because he believed humanity's survival depended on it. He believed humans needed to become a multiplanetary species. He believed electric cars could save Earth from climate change. These weren't hobbies. These were missions. And missions required sacrifice. So when Elon met Claire at the Met Gala, something incredible happened. For the first time in years, he met someone who understood sacrifice for your art. Someone who understood working 18-hour days because you believed in something bigger than yourself. Someone who didn't think he was crazy for wanting to go to Mars. And when Claire met Elon, she found someone who understood her too. Someone who knew what it felt like to be called weird your whole life. Someone who had been bullied and rejected and told their dreams were impossible. Someone who kept creating anyway. They were mirrors of each other. Two people shaped by the same forces: loneliness, bullying, impossible dreams, and the refusal to give up. That's why their connection was so powerful. That's why when they left the Met Gala together, it felt like destiny. Two worlds had collided. Two lonely stars had found each other in the darkness of space. But collisions create heat, and heat can warm you up or burn you down. They were about to find out which one it would be. After the Met Gala, Elon and Claire tried to keep their relationship secret. But keeping secrets when you're famous is like trying to hold water in your hands. It always slips through eventually. Those first weeks of May 2018 were magical. They texted constantly. At 3 in the morning, Elon would send Claire articles about artificial intelligence. She would send him songs she was working on. He would be at the Tesla factory in California, and she would be in a recording studio in Los Angeles, but they were always connected through their phones. Their conversations were unlike anything either of them had experienced before. They talked about whether computers could ever truly think. They debated about the simulation hypothesis, the idea that we might all be living inside a computer program. They discussed their favorite anime shows and why the storytelling was so good. "Do you really think we'll get to Mars in our lifetime?" Claire texted one night. "We have to," Elon replied. "It's the only way to make sure humanity survives. One asteroid could wipe out everything on Earth. We need a backup plan." "That's the most romantic thing anyone has ever said to me," Claire wrote back, and she meant it. Most men tried to impress her with compliments about her looks or her music. Elon talked to her about saving the human species. To Claire, that was way more attractive. Elon felt the same way about her. Most women he dated seemed interested in his money or his fame. Claire already had her own career, her own fans, her own dreams. She didn't need anything from him except his mind and his time. And time was something Elon barely had. He was still working 120-hour weeks. SpaceX was preparing for important rocket launches. Tesla was trying to produce more cars faster. Some nights, Elon slept on a couch in his office for just 3 hours before waking up to work again. But he made time for Claire. He would fly from California to wherever she was performing. He would stand in the back of dark music venues, watching her perform her electronic music to crowds of fans who had no idea he was there. He loved watching her lose herself in her art. She looked so free on stage. Claire visited SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. Elon gave her tour at 3 in the morning when he was still working, and most employees had gone home. They walked through enormous buildings filled with rocket parts. She touched the metal of spacecraft that would one day go to Mars. "This is incredible," she whispered, looking up at a Falcon 9 rocket. "You're actually doing it. You're actually building a future in space." Elon took her hand. "We're building it," he said. "Artists like you make people dream. Engineers like me make dreams real. We need both." In those quiet moments walking through rocket factories at dawn, they fell deeply in love, but the world was about to find out about them. On May 7, 2018, photographers captured them arriving at the Met Gala together. The photos spread across the internet within hours. By morning, every news website had the same headline: "Elon Musk arrives at Met Gala with musician Grimes." People were confused. Who was Grimes? Why was she with Elon Musk? They seemed like such an odd couple, the billionaire tech entrepreneur and the pink-haired experimental musician. Some people were supportive. "They're both geniuses," fans wrote on social media. "This is actually perfect." But others were cruel. They made fun of Claire's appearance. They said she was only with Elon for his money. They called her weird and strange. They said Elon could do better. Claire read the comments and felt her stomach twist. This was exactly what she had feared. Suddenly, she wasn't Grimes the musician anymore. She was Elon Musk's girlfriend. Elon noticed her getting quiet. "Are you okay?" he asked one evening in June. "Everyone is judging us," Claire said softly. "They think they know everything about us from one photo." "Let them think whatever they want," Elon replied. "The people who matter will understand. The people who don't understand don't matter." Claire wanted to believe him, but it was hard to ignore thousands of people saying mean things about you online. Then, in August 2018, everything got worse. Elon posted a tweet about taking Tesla private. He wrote, "I'm considering taking Tesla private at $420 funding secured." The tweet caused chaos. Tesla's stock price jumped, then crashed. Investors were confused. The Securities and Exchange Commission, the government agency that watches over stock markets, launched an investigation. They wanted to know if Elon had lied about having funding secured. The media attacked Elon from every direction. They called him reckless. They said he was unstable. Some people said he should be removed as CEO of his own companies. The pressure was immense. Elon's work schedule, which was already brutal, became even worse. He was sleeping even less. He was stressed beyond anything Claire had seen before. Some nights he would call her at 4 in the morning, exhausted and worried. "Maybe they're right," he said one night, his voice thick with fatigue. "Maybe I am losing it." "You're not losing anything," Claire said firmly. "You're fighting for what you built. That's not crazy, that's courage." Many people in Elon's life disappeared during this crisis. Fair-weather friends who enjoyed his success suddenly had other places to be when things got hard. Business partners questioned his decisions. Even some employees doubted him, but Claire stayed. She flew to California to be with him. She brought him food when he forgot to eat. She sat with him in his office at 2 in the morning while he worked through problems. She didn't try to fix everything. She just stayed. Elon would never forget that. When everyone else ran away, Claire walked toward him. The SEC case was eventually settled. Elon had to pay a fine and step down as chairman of Tesla's board, but he could stay as CEO. The crisis passed. The companies survived. Through it all, their relationship grew stronger. They continued to share their weird sense of humor. They sent each other memes about AI and space exploration. Elon showed Claire rocket designs. Claire played him unreleased music. They stayed up all night talking about philosophy and the meaning of consciousness. "Do you think love is just chemicals in our brains?" Claire asked one night, lying next to him. "Maybe," Elon said. "But even if it is, that doesn't make it less real. We're made of atoms and chemicals, but we still feel everything deeply. That's the beautiful mystery of being alive." Claire smiled in the darkness. This was why she loved him. He could talk about romantic feelings using science, and somehow that made it even more romantic. By the end of 2018, they had survived their first major test as a couple. They had faced public scrutiny, a major legal crisis, and the constant pressure of their demanding careers. They should have been exhausted. They should have been ready to give up. Instead, they were more in love than ever. But life was about to throw them something neither of them expected, something that would change everything and test their love in ways they couldn't imagine. In January 2019, Claire discovered she was pregnant, and she was terrified to tell Elon why. Claire stared at the pregnancy test in her bathroom. 2 pink lines, positive. Her hands were shaking. It was January 2019. She was 30 years old. She had spent the last 10 years building her music career from nothing. She had sacrificed everything for her art, sleep, relationships, money, comfort. Grimes was her identity, her music was her life. And now everything was about to change. Claire sat on the bathroom floor for a long time, her mind racing. Part of her felt joy. A tiny human was growing inside her, a piece of her and Elon combined, a miracle of biology and love. But another part of her felt pure terror. She thought about Elon's first marriage to Justine Wilson. They had 5 sons together, twins and then triplets. Elon loved his boys, but his first marriage had fallen apart under the pressure of his work schedule. Justine had written about feeling alone, even when married, about raising children while Elon was always at the office. Would Elon even want another child? He already had 5 sons. He was busier now than he had ever been. Would he be happy about this news or see it as one more complication in his impossible life? Claire also thought about her own dreams. She had a new album to finish, tour to plan, music videos to create. How could she do all of that with a baby? Would she have to choose between being an artist and being a mother? The question haunted her, could she be both? For 3 weeks, Claire kept the secret. She went to a doctor alone to confirm the pregnancy. She was indeed expecting. The due date would be in early May 2020. She continued working on her album, which she was calling Miss Anthropocene. It was about climate change and the end of the world, dark themes for a dark time. But now, creating this album felt different. She was making art about the world ending while growing new life that would have to live in that world. Every day she wanted to tell Elon. Every day fear stopped her. Finally, in February 2019, she couldn't wait anymore. They were at Elon's house in Los Angeles. It was late at night. He was looking at rocket designs on his laptop, probably thinking about Mars. "Elon," Claire said quietly, "I need to tell you something." He looked up from his computer. He saw the serious expression on her face and closed the laptop immediately. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong," Claire said. Her heart was pounding. "At least I don't think it's wrong. I hope it's not wrong." "Claire, you're scaring me. What is it?" She took a deep breath. "I'm pregnant." The room went silent. Elon's face went through several emotions in a few seconds: shock, confusion, and then something Claire didn't expect. His eyes filled with tears. "Really?" he whispered. Claire nodded, afraid to speak. Elon stood up and crossed the room. He pulled her into his arms and held her tight. His whole body was shaking. "That's incredible," he said into her hair. "That's the most incredible news." Claire felt her own tears start to fall. "You're not upset? You already have 5 kids. I thought maybe." "Upset?" Elon pulled back to look at her face. "Claire, I love being a father. It's the best thing I've ever done. Better than any rocket or any car. My boys are everything to me. And now," his voice broke, "now we get to create a life together. How could I be anything but happy?" Relief flooded through Claire's body, but mixed with the relief was still that edge of fear. The fear she couldn't quite name yet, the fear of losing herself. "I'm scared," she admitted. "I don't know how to be a mother and still be Grimes. I don't know how to do both." "We'll figure it out together," Elon said. "You're brilliant, you're strong, you can do anything, and I'll help. I promise I'll be better this time, more present. I learned from my mistakes with my first marriage." Claire wanted to believe him. She really did. They decided to keep the pregnancy secret as long as possible. They wanted time to adjust to the idea privately before the whole world had opinions about it. Over the next months, Claire continued working on her album while her body changed. Her belly grew slowly. She felt tired all the time but pushed through it. The music had to be finished. Elon tried to keep his promise about being present. He still worked extremely long hours, but he made time for doctor's appointments. He went with Claire to see ultrasounds. The first time they heard the baby's heartbeat, they both cried, but they also argued about everything, about nothing. They argued about baby names. Elon wanted something unique and meaningful. Claire wanted something even more unique and meaningful. Neither wanted a normal name like John or Sarah. Their child would be special, so the name should be special too. What about something related to space? Elon suggested. Or something related to artificial intelligence, Claire added. They made lists of ideas. Some were beautiful, some were weird. Some were so strange that they laughed until they couldn't breathe. Claire also struggled with deeper questions. She would lie awake at night feeling the baby kick, wondering who she would become. She had spent her whole adult life being Grimes, the artist who didn't compromise, who made weird music, who lived on the edge of possibility. Could she still be that person with a baby, or would motherhood erase everything she had built? She thought about all the female artists who had children and then disappeared. Their careers faded. Their names were forgotten. They became so-and-so's mom instead of themselves. This was Claire's deepest fear, not that she couldn't be a good mother. But that being a mother would mean she couldn't be Grimes anymore, that she would have to choose. She didn't tell Elon this fear. She didn't know how to put it into words. So she kept working on her album with fierce determination, as if finishing it would prove she could still be an artist even while growing a human inside her. Miss Anthropocene was released on February 21, 2020. Critics loved it. Fans loved it. Claire had created something beautiful and dark and strange while pregnant. She had proven she could still make art. But she was 7 months pregnant now and getting more tired every day. And the secret was getting harder to keep. In January 2020, Claire posted a photo on Instagram. She was standing in profile, her pregnant belly clearly visible. She didn't add any caption explaining it. She just let the image speak for itself. The internet exploded. Grimes is pregnant, headlines screamed. Elon Musk is going to be a father again. Grimes and Elon Musk expecting first child together. Suddenly everyone had opinions. Some people were excited and supportive. They sent love and congratulations, but others were cruel. They criticized the 17-year age gap between Elon and Claire. They made jokes about what their baby would look like. They posted mean comments about Claire's body and her pregnancy. The mommy shaming started before the baby was even born. People judged how Claire looked, how she dressed, whether she was eating right, whether she was working too much while pregnant, whether she should be making music at all instead of resting. Claire tried to ignore it, but it hurt. She had known the world would judge her, but knowing it and experiencing it were two different things. Elon got angry reading the comments. "These people don't know you," he said. "They don't know us. They're just jealous strangers hiding behind keyboards." "Maybe," Claire said, "but there are a lot of them." As her due date approached in May, Claire finished preparing for the baby. They set up a nursery. They bought tiny clothes and soft blankets. They read books about parenting. But Claire still hadn't told Elon her deepest fear, the fear that was growing along with the baby inside her, the fear that once she became Elon Musk's baby's mother, the world would forget that she was ever Grimes. She looked at herself in the mirror, her belly round and full of life, and wondered, who will I be when this is over? The answer was coming soon, very soon, and it would change everything. May 4, 2020, the world was in chaos. A virus called COVID-19 had spread across the planet. Cities were locked down, hospitals were overwhelmed, people wore masks and stayed apart from each other. It was a strange, scary time to bring a new life into the world, but life doesn't wait for the world to be ready. Claire's contractions started early in the morning. Elon rushed her to the hospital in Los Angeles. Because of the pandemic, the hospital had strict rules. Only one person could be with Claire during the birth. Of course, that person was Elon. He held her hand through hours of labor. He wiped sweat from her forehead. He told her she was strong, she was brave, she could do this. And she did. At 6:47 p.m., their baby was born, a healthy boy with a loud cry and tiny fists that grabbed at the air. Claire held him for the first time, this impossibly small human that had been growing inside her for 9 months. Tears streamed down her face. All the fear, all the worry, all the questions about who she would become, in that moment none of it mattered. She was a mother now. And he was perfect. Elon stood beside the hospital bed, looking at his 6th son, and cried like Claire had never seen him cry before. This brilliant man who built rockets and electric cars was reduced to tears by 7 pounds of brand new human. "He's beautiful," Elon whispered. "You did it. You brought him here. We did it, Claire corrected softly. Because of COVID-19 restrictions, they couldn't have visitors at the hospital. No family, no friends, just the three of them, Elon, Claire, and their new son, alone in a hospital room while the world outside struggled with a pandemic. In a strange way, it was perfect, private, intimate, just their little family. On May 5, 2020, Elon announced the birth on Twitter. He wrote simply, "Mom and baby all good." People immediately started asking, "What's the baby's name?" A few hours later, Elon tweeted again, "XAE812 Musk." The internet broke. People stared at their screens, confused. How do you even pronounce that? Is it a name or a computer password? Are they serious? Twitter erupted with reactions. Some people thought it was brilliant and futuristic. Others thought it was ridiculous. Comedians made jokes. Memes spread like wildfire. Everyone had an opinion about this baby's name. Is that even legal? People asked. How will teachers say that at roll call? Those poor kids at school are going to make fun of him. But Elon and Claire didn't care what strangers thought. To them, the name was perfect and meaningful. X stood for the unknown variable, the mystery in every equation, the questions waiting to be answered. Their son would be someone who explored the unknown. AE was pronounced Ash. In Claire's creative interpretation, it was the elven spelling of AI, artificial intelligence. It also represented love in several ways. AE was beautiful and strange, just like their relationship. At-12 was their favorite aircraft, the Archangel 12, which was the precursor to the SR-71 Blackbird. It was the coolest spy plane ever made, capable of flying higher and faster than almost anything else. Elon and Claire both loved it. It's pronounced X-A12, Claire explained in an interview later, though even she and Elon sometimes pronounced it differently. A few weeks after the birth, they had to change the name slightly. California law doesn't allow numbers in names. So 812 became Aza, using Roman numerals. The baby's official name became XAE812 Musk. People still couldn't pronounce it, but Elon and Claire called him simply X. Those first days of parenthood were beautiful and exhausting. Claire was recovering from childbirth during a global pandemic. She couldn't have the normal support system new mothers usually have. No friends visiting to help. No family dropping by with meals. Just her and Elon, figuring it out together. Elon surprised Claire by being very hands-on. He held baby X during video conference calls with SpaceX engineers. He changed diapers while discussing Tesla production numbers. He would rock X to sleep at 3 in the morning, humming quietly. Claire took photos of them together and posted them on social media. The images showed a softer side of Elon that the public rarely saw. Here was this man who wanted to colonize Mars, gently cradling a tiny baby in his enormous hands. For a few weeks, everything felt magical, but reality started creeping back in. Claire was exhausted in ways she had never experienced before. Baby X didn't sleep much. He would cry for hours. Claire would feed him, change him, hold him, sing to him, and still he would cry. Some nights she cried too. She looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself. Her body had changed. Her hair was unwashed. She wore the same milk-stained shirt for 3 days. The exhaustion went deeper than her bones, and her music equipment sat silent in the corner. She hadn't made music in weeks, hadn't even thought about making music. Every moment was consumed by this tiny human who needed her constantly. Is this what motherhood is? She wondered, just disappearing into someone else's needs. Elon tried to help, but his work schedule barely slowed down. SpaceX was preparing for historic launches. Tesla was ramping up production. He would be home for a few hours, holding X and being present, but then his phone would ring, and he would have to step away for an emergency meeting. Claire understood. She knew his work was important, but understanding didn't make it easier when she was alone at 2 in the morning, exhausted beyond belief with a screaming baby. They argued more now. Short, sharp arguments born from lack of sleep and stress. "I need more help," Claire said one exhausted morning. "I'm doing the best I can," Elon replied, frustrated. "I'm running 2 companies. I can't just stop working." "I'm not asking you to stop working. I'm asking you to be here more." "I am here. Your body is here. Your mind is at the factory." These conversations went in circles, leaving both of them feeling misunderstood and alone. But there were beautiful moments too. Watching X discover his own hands, staring at them like they were magical creatures. His first smile, which made all the sleepless nights worth it. The way he would calm down when he heard Elon's voice or felt Claire's heartbeat. Claire would hold X and feel overwhelming love mixed with overwhelming fear. She loved him more than anything. But she was terrified of losing herself completely in motherhood. One night, Elon found her crying in the nursery while X slept. "What's wrong?" he asked gently. "I don't know who I am anymore," Claire whispered. "I used to be Grimes. I used to make music and art. Now I'm just this. I'm just a mom. And I love being his mom, but what if that's all I ever am now?" Elon sat down beside her. "You're still Grimes, you're still an artist. Being a mother doesn't erase that, it adds to it." "But when?" Claire asked. "When do I get to make music again? When do I get to be creative? He needs me all the time." "We'll figure it out," Elon said. "We'll get help, nannies, whatever you need. You don't have to choose between being a mother and being an artist. You can be both." Claire wanted to believe him, but deep down she wasn't sure it was true. Over the next months, they settled into a routine. They hired help so Claire could have some time for her music. She started working on new songs again, though much less than before. X grew bigger and stronger. He started recognizing them and responding to their voices. Elon and Claire developed different parenting styles. Claire wanted to raise X without strict gender norms. She dressed him in clothes of all colors. She played him all kinds of music. She wanted him to be free to be whoever he wanted to be. Elon wanted to teach X about engineering and space. He would show him rocket videos and explain how things worked, even though X was too young to understand. They compromised on most things. They agreed X should have access to both art and science, both creativity and logic, both Claire's world and Elon's world. They also agreed on one firm rule: no screens. No tablets, no phones, no television, just books and music and real experiences. They wanted X to develop his brain naturally, not through digital devices. "The irony," Claire laughed, "is that we both made our careers through technology, but we don't want our kids staring at screens." "That's exactly why," Elon said. "We know what screens can do to your brain. We want something different for him." As X approached his first birthday, Elon and Claire posted photos and videos of him. The internet was obsessed with this strange little family. X would appear in Claire's music videos. Elon would mention him in interviews. But behind the cute photos and proud parent moments, cracks were forming in their relationship. Cracks that would soon become too large to ignore. Claire's deepest fear, the one she had carried since the pregnancy test, was starting to come true, and she didn't know how to stop it. By the fall of 2021, something had shifted. If you looked at Elon and Claire's social media, everything seemed perfect. Cute photos of X playing, loving messages between them, the appearance of a happy family, but appearances can be deceiving. In September 2021, rumors started spreading online. People noticed that Elon and Claire hadn't been photographed together in months. They weren't commenting on each other's posts anymore. Something felt different. Then a reporter asked Elon directly about his relationship status. Elon paused before answering. "We are semi-separated but still love each other, see each other frequently, and are on great terms." Semi-separated. What did that even mean? The statement confused everyone. You're either together or you're not, right? How can you be semi-separated? But for Elon and Claire, it made perfect sense, because their love hadn't died. Their relationship had just become impossible to maintain in its original form. Here's what had happened. After X was born, Elon's work schedule became even more demanding. SpaceX was preparing to send humans to the International Space Station. Tesla was building new factories in Texas and Germany. He was working 120 hours a week again, sometimes more. There were weeks when Elon barely came home. He would sleep at the Tesla factory in Fremont, California. He would wake up at 5 in the morning and work until midnight, then sleep for a few hours and do it again. Claire understood that his work was important. She really did. She knew SpaceX was trying to make humanity a multiplanetary species. She knew Tesla was fighting climate change with electric vehicles. These weren't just jobs, they were missions to save humanity. But understanding something intellectually doesn't make it hurt less emotionally. Claire was home with X, essentially as a single parent. Yes, they had nannies to help, but nannies couldn't be X's father. Nannies couldn't make Elon present when he was physically absent. X would say his first words and Elon would miss it because he was in a meeting. X would take his first steps and Elon would hear about it later through a text message. These precious moments happened once and Elon wasn't there. Claire tried to talk to him about it. X needs his father, she said one rare evening when Elon was home. I know, Elon replied, exhausted. I'm doing the best I can. But if I don't keep working this hard, these companies could fail. Thousands of people depend on these jobs. Humanity's future depends on what we're building. But what about your son's future? Claire asked quietly. What about his present? He's growing up right now, Elon. You can't get this time back. Elon's face showed the pain of an impossible choice. I know, he whispered, but I don't know how to do less. The work has to get done. This same conversation happened over and over. Different words, same meaning. Claire needed him present. Elon needed to work. Both needs were valid. Both needs couldn't be met at the same time, but it wasn't just about Elon's absence. It was about Claire's identity crisis. When people interviewed her now, they didn't start with questions about her music. They started with questions about Elon. What's it like dating Elon Musk? How do you balance your relationship with such a busy man? Tell us about raising X with Elon. She had become Elon Musk's girlfriend first and Grimes the musician second. Articles about her new music would have headlines like, Elon Musk's partner Grimes releases new song. Not musician Grimes releases new song. Her identity had been swallowed by his fame. This was exactly what Claire had feared when she first got pregnant. The thing she couldn't name, the terror that had lived in her chest. She was disappearing, not physically. But the person she had spent 10 years building, Grimes, the boundary-pushing artist, was fading into the background, being replaced by her relationship to a famous man. Claire tried to fight it. She worked on new music whenever she could. She posted art on social media. She gave interviews where she tried to steer conversations back to her work, but it felt like swimming against a massive wave. Elon's gravity was too strong, and she resented it, not him exactly, but the situation. The unfairness of it. When Elon dated someone, people barely mentioned it. He remained Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla and SpaceX. His identity stayed intact. But when Claire dated him, she became Elon's girlfriend. Everything she had built became secondary to their relationship. This wasn't Elon's fault. He never tried to overshadow her. He promoted her music. He praised her genius. He genuinely admired her art. But his existence was so large, so consuming, that it didn't matter what he intended. Just being associated with him changed how the world saw her. By summer 2021, they were fighting more than they were connecting. Little arguments about parenting, big arguments about time and presence, frustrated conversations that went nowhere. They loved each other. They really did, but love wasn't enough. The life Elon needed to live, constant work, minimal sleep, total dedication to his companies, and the life Claire needed to live, creative freedom, personal identity, present partnership, couldn't exist in the same space. So they made a painful decision. They would semi-separate. They would live in different homes but close to each other. They would share custody of X. They would remain friends and co-parents. They would still support each other's work, but they wouldn't try to force a romantic relationship that was breaking both of them. It wasn't a breakup. It was a transformation. Some people understood, others didn't. The media tried to make it dramatic, Elon and Grimes split. But it wasn't like that. There was no big fight, no betrayal, no scandal. Just two people who realized they couldn't give each other what they needed while staying together. But then in December 2021, something shocking happened. Claire gave birth to their second child, a daughter, born via surrogate, named Exad Dark Siderale Musk, though they called her Y. The world was stunned. How could they have a second baby while semi-separated? When did this happen? Why didn't anyone know Claire was pregnant? She wasn't. The baby was carried by a surrogate. Why would they have another child if they couldn't make their relationship work? The answer was complicated, like everything about their relationship. They had decided to use a surrogate for a second child before their semi-separation. Claire's first pregnancy had been difficult. Her body had struggled. They wanted X to have a sibling close in age, and surrogacy seemed like the best option. By the time baby Y was born in December 2021, Elon and Claire were already living separately, but they still loved each other. They still wanted their children to have siblings, so they went ahead with the plan. To the outside world, it looked confusing, but to them, it made sense. You can love someone deeply and still not be able to live with them. You can be committed to raising children together while not being romantic partners. Love is more complicated than society's simple categories of together or broken up. Elon and Claire were writing their own rules, but it was hard, so hard. Claire now had 2 small children. X was almost 2, Y was a newborn. Even with help, motherhood was consuming her life. Her music career had almost stopped completely. She hadn't released a full album since before X was born. The creative, wild artist who used to work 18-hour days on experimental sounds was now changing diapers and singing lullabies. She loved her children fiercely. But she also mourned who she used to be. Meanwhile, Elon was working harder than ever. SpaceX launched the first all-civilian crew to orbit Earth in September 2021. Tesla became a trillion-dollar company. He was named Time magazine's Person of the Year for 2021. His star kept rising, and Claire felt like hers was fading. In March 2022, Vanity Fair magazine published an interview with Claire. The journalist came to her house. They talked for hours. Claire was guarded at first, but eventually opened up. She talked about her music, her art, her struggles with identity, and then something happened that Claire didn't plan. Baby Y cried upstairs. The journalist heard it. Claire froze. She hadn't told the world about Y yet. She and Elon had been keeping their daughter private, but now the secret was out. "You have another baby?" the journalist asked, surprised. Claire's face showed panic, then resignation. There was no hiding it now. "Yeah," she admitted quietly. "Her name is Y." The article came out with the headline, "Grimes on Raising X and Baby Y with Elon Musk." It revealed Y's existence to the world and contained Claire's most honest thoughts about her relationship. She told the journalist that she and Elon were fluid in their relationship, sometimes together, sometimes apart. She said she considered him her boyfriend, but they lived in separate houses. She talked about her struggle to maintain her identity while being known primarily as his partner. "I just need my own space to create," Claire said in the interview. "I need to be Grimes, not just X and Y's mom or Elon's girlfriend." The article was heartbreaking in its honesty. You could feel Claire's pain, the pain of loving someone and losing yourself at the same time. When the article published, the internet exploded again. Everyone had opinions. Some people praised Claire for her honesty. Others criticized her parenting choices. Some blamed Elon for not being present enough. Others said Claire was selfish for wanting a career when she had 2 young children. The judgment was relentless. But hidden in all that judgment was a truth that many people understood, even if they wouldn't admit it. Sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes 2 people can be perfect for each other in theory, but impossible for each other in practice. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let go, not of the person, but of the relationship structure that's hurting you both. That's what Elon and Claire were learning, and the hardest lessons were still to come. After the Vanity Fair article published in March 2022, Claire felt exposed. She had accidentally revealed Y's existence. She had shared her deepest struggles with the world. Now everyone was watching, waiting to see what would happen next. The comments online were brutal. People who had never met her felt entitled to judge her entire life. "She's a bad mother for prioritizing her career. She knew what she was getting into dating Elon. She just wants his money. If she really loved him, she would support his work without complaining." Each comment was a tiny knife. Together, they were 1,000 cuts, but some comments were different. They came from other women, other mothers, other artists who understood. "I feel this so deeply," one woman wrote. "I love my kids, but I miss who I was before them." "Why do mothers have to lose themselves completely?" another asked. "Fathers get to keep their identities. Why can't we?" These comments made Claire cry. Not sad tears, but tears of recognition. She wasn't alone in this struggle. Millions of women everywhere were trying to balance motherhood with selfhood, trying to be everything to everyone while slowly disappearing inside. The difference was that Claire's struggle was happening in front of the entire world. In the months after the article, something shifted in Claire. She started to understand what she had been feeling all along, the fear she couldn't name during her pregnancy. The terror that had grown with each passing month. It wasn't about Elon. It wasn't even about motherhood. It was about identity. Claire Boucher had spent her entire life being told she was too weird, too different, too much. She didn't fit into normal boxes, so she created her own box. She became Grimes, a persona, an artist, someone who could be exactly as strange and creative as she wanted to be. Grimes was her protection, her power, her purpose. For 10 years, she had built this identity carefully, album by album, song by song. She had turned Claire Boucher, the bullied kid from Vancouver, into Grimes, the respected experimental musician. And then she met Elon. Suddenly, she wasn't just Grimes anymore. She was Elon Musk's girlfriend, then mother of Elon Musk's children. Articles about her music mentioned Elon in the first sentence. Her own accomplishments became footnotes to his story. The world was erasing Grimes and replacing her with her relationship to a man. This wasn't Elon's fault. He never asked her to be less. He never tried to control her art or change who she was. He loved Grimes, the weird, creative, brilliant artist, but the world didn't care what Elon wanted. The world had rules about women who dated powerful men, and those rules said, you are no longer yourself. You are his accessory. Claire had watched this happen to other women. Tallulah Riley, Elon's second wife, was an actress with her own career, but most people knew her as Elon's ex-wife. Justine Wilson, his first wife, was a writer, but she became Elon's first wife in most articles. Claire had been terrified of this from the beginning. That's why she was scared to tell Elon about her pregnancy. Not because he wouldn't be a good father, but because she knew that having his child would cement her identity in the public eye as Elon's baby mama rather than as an artist in her own right. And that's exactly what happened. Now, in mid-2022, Claire had to make a choice. Keep fighting to maintain a relationship that was slowly erasing her, or step back and reclaim herself. She chose herself, not in a dramatic way, not with anger or blame. Just quietly, firmly, she chose herself. She and Elon had more conversations about their relationship. Honest, painful conversations. I love you, Claire said during one of these talks. I will always love you. You're brilliant and strange and you understand me in ways no one else does. But I'm disappearing, Elon. Not because of anything you're doing, but because of what the world does to women who love famous men. Elon listened. He understood intellectually, but it still hurt. I don't want you to disappear, he said. I fell in love with Grimes, with your art and your mind and your weirdness. I never wanted you to be anything other than exactly who you are. I know, Claire said softly, but intention doesn't matter when the result is the same. I can feel myself fading. I look in the mirror and I don't recognize who I'm becoming. So what do we do? Elon asked. We love each other from a distance, Claire answered. We co-parent our beautiful children. We support each other's work. But we stop trying to force a romantic relationship that requires me to sacrifice myself. Elon was quiet for a long time. Finally, he nodded. Okay, he whispered, if that's what you need. It's what we both need, Claire said. You need to focus on your work without feeling guilty about not being home. I need to rebuild my identity without being consumed by yours. This isn't failure, it's evolution. By September 2022, reports confirmed they had broken up again. This time, it felt more permanent. Not because they stopped loving each other, but because they had accepted reality. They were better apart than together. Claire moved into her own house. She set up a recording studio. She started working on new music with the intensity she hadn't felt in years. Ideas flowed again. Creativity returned. She felt like herself, like Grimes, for the first time since X was born. She posted photos of herself with pink and blue hair, covered in futuristic makeup, looking wild and free. The comments were supportive. She looks happy again, people noticed. Good for her for choosing herself. This is what self-love looks like. Elon continued his work. SpaceX launched more rockets. Tesla built more factories. He was dating other people now. The media reported on his relationships with the same intensity they had reported on his relationship with Claire. But something was different now. Claire wasn't checking those articles anymore. She wasn't comparing herself to whoever he was seeing. She had released herself from that prison. They shared custody of X and why the children would spend time at Claire's house, then time at Elon's house. Both parents were present and loving. The kids were happy and healthy. And slowly, the media started talking about Claire's music again. Not Elon's ex-girlfriend's music, just her music. She gave interviews where she refused to discuss Elon unless it was about co-parenting. She redirected every question back to her art. She reclaimed her narrative. I'm Grimes, she said firmly in one interview. I'm a musician and an artist. I'm also a mother. And yes, I used to date Elon Musk, but that's not who I am. That's something that happened to me. Who I am is the person I've been building since I was 19 years old. The interviewer tried to ask more about Elon. Claire smiled and said, "Next question." People respected that. They started to understand that Claire wasn't being difficult. She was drawing boundaries. She was protecting the identity she had nearly lost. By the end of 2022, Claire and Elon had found a rhythm. They texted about the kids. They coordinated schedules. Sometimes they even had dinner together as a family, the two of them an X and Y, but as co-parents, not as a couple. At these dinners, they would laugh about old jokes. They would discuss AI and philosophy like they used to. The connection was still there. The love was still there. But the relationship, the romantic, all-consuming relationship was gone, and that was okay. Actually, it was more than okay. It was necessary. Some people couldn't understand this. "If you still love each other, why aren't you together?" they would ask. But love isn't always enough. Sometimes love means letting someone go. Sometimes love means choosing separate paths while still caring deeply about each other's journey. That's what Claire and Elon had learned. They had been the most unlikely couple, the billionaire tech entrepreneur and the experimental musician. When they met at the Met Gala in 2018, they had seemed perfect for each other, and in many ways they were. But perfect on paper doesn't always translate to possible in real life. Their love story wasn't ending, it was transforming. From romance to friendship, from partnership to co-parenting, from consuming each other to supporting each other from a healthy distance. This was the truth that Claire had been hiding all along, the fear she couldn't name, the secret that threatened everything. She had been terrified that loving Elon would mean losing herself, and for a while it did. But through that loss, she learned something valuable. She could choose herself without destroying the love. She could walk away from the relationship while keeping the connection. That took courage, that took strength. And that's what made their story truly beautiful, not because it ended happily ever after in a traditional sense, but because it ended honestly, with both people choosing growth over comfort, identity over possession, evolution over endings. But the story still wasn't over, because in 2024 something unexpected happened. Something that would show the world that love never really dies, it just changes shape. By 2023, Claire and Elon had settled into their new normal. They weren't a couple anymore, but they were something else, something harder to define but equally important. They were family. X was 3 years old now, talking constantly, asking a million questions about everything. Y was learning to walk, taking wobbly steps and falling down with giggles. Both children split their time between two homes, two parents who loved them deeply. The arrangement worked. Better than the relationship ever had, actually. Claire was creating music again. In late 2023, she announced she was working on new albums. Her creativity had exploded. She was painting, making videos, collaborating with other artists. Grimes was back and she was fiercer than ever. She posted photos of herself looking wild and free, covered in elaborate makeup, wearing futuristic outfits, her eyes bright with artistic fire. The captions were about her music, her art, her vision. Not about relationships or motherhood or anyone else. She had reclaimed herself. Elon continued building his empires. SpaceX successfully launched more missions. The Starship rocket, his dream of reaching Mars, got closer to reality with each test. Tesla expanded globally. He even bought Twitter and renamed it X, which made everyone joke about his son's name. But something had changed in Elon too. He talked about his children more in interviews. He posted photos of X and why he seemed more present as a father, even with his impossible schedule. Maybe almost losing Claire had taught him something. Maybe becoming a single co-parent forced him to be more intentional with his time. Whatever the reason, he was trying harder, and Claire noticed. She didn't say much about it publicly, but in private moments she appreciated the effort. They would see each other at kid exchanges, dropping X and Y off, picking them up. These moments were tender in unexpected ways. They would talk for a few minutes about the children's day. Sometimes they'd laugh at something funny X said or share a knowing look when Y did something adorable. The romantic spark was gone, but the deep understanding remained. Then in 2024, rumors started circulating. Whispers that Claire and Elon might have had a third child together. Some reports said a son named Techno Mechanicus, nicknamed Tao. Others said multiple children. Nobody knew for sure. Neither Claire nor Elon confirmed or denied anything. They had learned to keep their private lives more private. The world didn't need to know everything. Their children deserved some protection from public scrutiny. But whether they had one child, 2 or 3 together didn't really matter to the story. What mattered was this: they had created life together. They had built something permanent, even though their relationship wasn't. X and Y and possibly Tau would forever connect them. These children carried pieces of both their parents, Claire's artistic soul and Elon's brilliant mind, combined in beautiful, unique ways. In spring 2024, Claire and Elon were spotted together at a school event for X. Photographers captured them talking, laughing even. They weren't holding hands. They weren't acting like a couple, but there was ease between them, comfort. The body language of two people who knew each other deeply and still cared. The photos sparked new rumors. Are they back together? Headlines asked, but they weren't. They were just two parents showing up for their kid, two people who had transformed their love into something sustainable. And that's when people finally started to understand what made their story beautiful. It wasn't beautiful because it was a fairy tale. It was beautiful because it was real. Real love is messy. It doesn't always look like movies or romance novels. Sometimes it means loving someone enough to leave. Sometimes it means staying connected while living separately. Sometimes it means choosing yourself without destroying the other person. Elon and Claire had done something remarkable. They had faced the impossible choice between love and identity, and instead of choosing, they had transformed the question itself. They proved that you can love someone deeply without possessing them. You can be committed to children together without being romantic partners. You can honor what you built while walking different paths. In a world obsessed with relationship goals and perfect couples, they showed something more valuable, authentic love that adapts and evolves. Most breakups end in bitterness. Ex-partners who can't stand each other, children caught in the middle of adult wars, years of resentment and regret. But not this one. Claire and Elon's love didn't die. It metamorphosed. Like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly, it changed into something completely different but equally alive. They would probably never be romantic partners again. Too much had happened. They had learned they couldn't give each other what they needed in that form, but they would always be connected. Through X and Y and possibly other children. Through shared memories of that magical Met Gala night. Through the understanding that comes from truly being seen by another person. Years from now, when X and Y are older, they'll ask about their parents' relationship. And Claire and Elon will tell them the truth. We loved each other very much. We still do. But sometimes love means being apart so both people can be whole. That's not a sad story. That's a mature story. That's a real story. The most beautiful love stories aren't about perfect endings. They're about real people making impossible choices with grace. They're about two souls who touched each other deeply and carried that light forward into separate futures. Elon will keep building rockets to Mars, working his impossible hours, dreaming his impossible dreams. And somewhere among all those meetings and launches, he'll think of Claire and smile, remembering the woman who understood him when everyone else thought he was crazy. Claire will keep making her experimental music, pushing artistic boundaries, being beautifully weird. And in quiet moments between songs, she'll think of Elon and feel grateful for the man who never tried to make her smaller, even though the world did. They gave each other something precious. They proved it was possible to be completely, authentically yourself and still be loved. That gift doesn't disappear just because a relationship ends. So this isn't a story about a breakup. It's a story about evolution, about transformation, about love that's strong enough to change shape without breaking. This is the most beautiful love story you'll see today, not because it's perfect, but because it's true. Two brilliant, broken, beautiful people who found each other across an impossible gulf, who created art and life and dreams together, who faced the world's judgment and survived, who chose evolution over ending, who proved that love doesn't have to look like fairy tales to be real. Elon and Claire's story isn't over. It's just becoming something new. And maybe that's the real definition of true love. Not holding on forever in the same form, but loving someone enough to let the relationship transform into whatever it needs to be. That's not failure. That's the most mature, most difficult, most beautiful kind of love there is. In a universe of billions of people, two weird souls found each other. They burned bright together. And when the burning became too hot, they didn't extinguish the flame. They just gave it more space to breathe. The love is still there. It just looks different now. And sometimes that's the happiest ending of all. So that's the beautiful truth about Elon and Claire. Their love didn't die, it just transformed into something real. Now I want to hear from you. Where are you listening from right now? Drop your country or city in the comments below. I love knowing where our community is watching from all around the world. And if this story touched your heart, hit that like button. It helps us spread more stories of real love and kindness to people who need to hear them. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss these powerful true stories. Thank you for watching until the end. Click on the video appearing on your screen right now for another incredible story you won't want to miss. Until next time, remember, love doesn't always look like the movies, and sometimes that makes it even more beautiful.